Hey guys, today is Friday, September 11th. The time is 12:47 p.m. and the temperature is 13 degrees Celsius. At least according to my watch it is, although it certainly feels a bit warmer than that. I'm on St. Clair Avenue West, and this is Sir Winston Churchill Park I'm about to enter. And the plan for this walk is to head south through the park, and then I'll turn onto Spadina Road and head on down past Casa Loma and continue on south down to Spadina Station. It should be a relatively short walk today, but I haven't been through this area in a while, so I thought I'd come back and take a look around. This area could be considered as part of Midtown Toronto. No problem. That was the first time I kicked a soccer ball in quite a while. If I'm not mistaken, these tennis courts are part of a private club. So by that I mean they're not open to the public in the traditional sense that you can just come and wait for a free court. There should be a sign up online somewhere where you can apply to be a member. And just at the south end of the park here, there is quite a nice ravine we're about to swing past. There's a look north back to St. Clair Avenue West and the St. Clair streetcar, which I took from St. Clair Station to get over to the park to start this walk today. And I've always been kind of curious about this building here, this white one that's directly in front of the camera. I've always quite liked the architecture, as well as the one that's just in behind it. My grandmother used to live just north of here on Chichester, and I'd always hang out in her balcony looking at the skyline. And that building always seemed to draw my attention. And in a previous video when I walked past this park, someone in the comments mentioned I had to come through here and go down the steps at the back of the park. So here we are. There's a few different trails that pass through this ravine. And to be honest, I can't recall having been on any of them. Perhaps on my bicycle once upon a time, a long time ago, but if I have, that is eluding my memory. Perhaps I'll come back and record a video passing through here at some point. I do recall there being an off-leash dog park just at the bottom of this dip here. Yep, there it is. And that is Spadina Road passing above it, which eventually turns into Spadina Crescent, or sorry, Spadina Avenue, when it goes south of Bloor Street West. And there's that building again. That is 330 Spadina Road. Now I remember looking up the rents in there, and I saw that a studio apartment was quite reasonable. It was somewhere around $1,300 or $1,400. Although the one bedrooms were well north of $2,000, so I'm assuming there's a significant square footage difference between the two. Often in the older buildings, the studios or bachelors are quite spacious. Whereas in newer buildings, they tend to be significantly smaller and more cramped. So I'd be curious to get a look at what some of those units look like. Those towers in the background would be part of the Yorkville neighborhood, right around the intersection of Yonge and Bloor. There's a look at one of the trails that disappears into the ravine. And this part of Spadina Road is mostly residential. In the area to the north of here, just north of St. Clair Avenue, is known as Forest Hill South. And the area to the south of here is a neighborhood known as the Annex. And just off to the east of here is an area known as South Hill, but I'm not sure what this area itself is called. Perhaps people just refer to it as Casa Loma. There's a look at another entrance down into the ravine. And that street there is Russell Hill Drive, which I imagine might be a bit confusing since just to the east of here is Russell Hill Road, which is one of my favorite streets to cycle southbound into downtown on. And I'm sure these houses are well north of $1 million, probably closer to 5 or 6. Although it's interesting to see such large properties share a driveway space like that. It's a bit unusual. This one's kind of located up on top of a hill. That'd be a bugger to shovel those steps in the winter. And this street was originally supposed to be cleared out in the early 70s to make way for the Spadina Expressway, which is now known as the Allen Expressway, which stops at Eglinton Avenue. But it was originally to come south. And cut through, and they were going to demolish much of Chinatown actually to build that highway that would go from north to south down the center of the city. Certainly there's some monster homes down this street, and I don't even see a name on it. And just up ahead here on the left will be the Spadina Museum, otherwise known as the Spadina House. There's a greenhouse on the property, and it dates back to somewhere in the 1800s. There's been a few different structures that have been on the property. And the museum itself features a look into early 20th century living in the city of Toronto. And to be honest, I can't ever recall having been there. We did numerous school trips growing up to this area to check out Casa Loma, but I can't recall ever coming into here, which is the Spadina Museum. No pedestrian access, so maybe I won't stick my nose into that part of the property. And if I'm not mistaken, it is free entry, but they do suggest a donation of $10. So if you're looking to see some sights and are on a bit of a budget, might be a neat place to check off on your list. Let's just take a quick look into the property grounds here. There's a look at the greenhouse. And I think that's about it. So I'll head on over to Casa Loma, which is one of the most well-known landmarks in the city of Toronto. You've probably seen it plastered all over postcards of the city, along with the Flatiron Building and the CN Tower. It's easily one of those iconic structures that always seems to come up in images of the city. It's been featured in a number of movies and TV shows over the years, of course. There's a nice look at the front entrance of the Spadina Museum. And at this point here, Spadina Road actually ends at Spadina Park, but it resumes just on the other side at the bottom of the Baldwin Steps, which I'll be heading down in a minute or two. But let's just take a quick peek at Casa Loma. I won't be heading inside. I think it is open to visitors at this point. But if you're wondering, admission for adults is $30. It is less for children and seniors. And the construction of this property was completed back in 1914, and it was actually designed by an architect known as E.J. Lennox, who's responsible for a number of very prominent buildings in Toronto's history, including the King Edward Hotel and Old City Hall, both of which I've filmed a number of times on this channel. He even designed the first ever skyscraper in the city, which was located by King and Jarvis. But sadly, that building was demolished in the 1930s and made way to a gas station. So it kind of met a bit of a tragic end, especially since the city hasn't preserved all of its notable structures, and that would certainly be one worth keeping. There is a steakhouse on the property, so I think that's where that chef was heading. And Casa Loma was built by the gentleman on that plaque, Sir Henry Pellet. And as I mentioned, it was completed in 1914. But Sir Henry Pellet and his wife only lived here for about a decade or so, as he ran into financial problems and the city of Toronto had to take over the property I think in 1924. It's rumored that the ghost of his wife still haunts the tunnel underneath Casa Loma. He made his fortune by investing in the railway and hydroelectricity and later mining. And there's 98 rooms in this property, and it totals around 65,000 square feet. And I think the style could be described as a Gothic revival style mansion. And in addition to the haunted tunnel underneath, there's supposedly a number of secret passageways. You can kind of see the downtown skyline peeking out in the background there. And during World War II, part of this property was used as a research lab looking into sonar that would help detect German U-boats. And that was unknown to even the city of Toronto at the time. So it was a very top secret operation. And just north of the property here is another castle-like structure. I'll take a quick peek at it. That's part of the Casa Loma Parquet. I wish I knew more about that building. And we'll head on over to the Baldwin Steps. And this area actually sits on top of an escarpment that used to overlook the prehistoric Lake Iroquois. That dates back somewhere around 13,000 years. I think it was the original Lake Erie, which is one of the 5 Great Lakes. And if no one's in the way, I should be able to get a pretty nice view of the city skyline from up here. So these are the Baldwin Steps I'm approaching, and this will take us down to Davenport Road. Which is a street I briefly lived on. I think back in 2009 I came back from Korea just for about 4 or 5 months and stayed with some friends there before I turned around and went back to Korea.
Oh, okay, so it'll compensate you, right?
So this next road here is Davenport Road, just at the bottom of these steps, and then Spadina Road will continue south of here. Quite a nice view up these steps, and just to the west of here is George Brown College. So a completely spontaneous and unplanned event right there. But happy birthday. So as I mentioned, just to the west, which is to the right of these townhomes, is the George Brown Casa Loma campus. George Brown has a number of campuses in the city of Toronto. There's one down in the St. Lawrence neighborhood, and another down on Queens Quay. And they have buildings in the Canary District as well. And this building here is the Toronto Archives. This is where the city of Toronto keeps its records, things like, I'm guessing, papers of people, family, photographs, a lot of the pre-amalgamation city records as well. It is 2020, so I'm not sure the logic behind having a physical structure for this. Could they not just scan everything and keep it online, backed up over several databases? I don't know. Seems like a relic of the past, but I probably don't know what I'm talking about. And these are the CP rail tracks I'll be heading under. They run parallel to Dupont Street, which is an old industrial street. And on the street corner of Dupont and Spadina is Dupont Station, which serves the university side of the TTC subway's Line 1. And this station opened as part of a northern expansion in 1978. It's got a decidedly 70s appeal to the interior. I have filmed a number of videos that pass through there. So this area here could be considered part of the Annex neighborhood. And that's a look east down Dupont Street. You could take that over to Avenue Road. And yes, for those who are interested, Dupont does have an accessibility elevator, which is good to see. And I'll be walking just the length of one more subway stop to the south here at Spadina Station. Although maybe I don't want to be on the side of the road that's fenced in. I can't see if up ahead this construction fencing ends or not. Let me take a look. It seems to go down quite a ways. A lot of these homes are very much on the older side, probably dating back to around the 1930s, if not older. But I don't think many, if any at all, of these have landed on the city's heritage listing. There is one just up ahead, but that's actually the northern entrance to Spadina Station. We'll be walking past. Someone asked me in the comments of an earlier video if that entrance was still open, and if it was, if I could check it out. So we'll take a quick peek in there. And that entrance was actually built out of an old house that was constructed in 1899. There's a pair of shoes if you're interested. It's kind of weird, they didn't look that beat up. And as I mentioned, they were originally planning on building the Spadina Expressway down Spadina Road and into Chinatown. But thankfully that project met its end. It didn't go past Eglinton Avenue. But as part of that project, it would have seen the demise of many of these properties. It also really would have changed the complexion of Casa Loma, as it's kind of in a nice, almost tranquil environment, and there would have been a noisy highway running right alongside it. So the city certainly dodged a few bullets. And this is Bernard Avenue. You could take this over to Madison Avenue or St. George Street, a few blocks to the east of here. And I think St. George and Bernard is where you'll find the Chinese consulate. This leave your shoes on the curb day. Those don't look that bad either. I'm not sure if I got them on the camera or not. There's a retirement residence. That cab driver was wearing his mask under his nose. I don't think that's doing anything at all to protect him or his passengers. I've seen a number of threads on Reddit lately of people complaining about that, and that's been something I've been noticing ever since people started wearing masks and face coverings. And due to the close proximity of the University of Toronto, which is just to the south of here, as well as George Brown College, there is a lot of student housing in this area. So a lot of these older homes have been chopped up into various apartments. And because it's a high demand area, I'm sure they're not cheap. And right up here is the Spadina Station entrance. So this is that old 1899 house. I think it was called the George B. Gash House. And when they built the subway station, they were originally going to knock it down and build a more traditional subway entrance here, but the residents spoke up and they were able to maintain it or incorporate it into the new station. Let me just throw my mask on and we'll take a quick look inside. Masks and face coverings mandatory. Unfortunately, not everybody follows that. And there's also a lot of people sort of skirting those rules by conveniently having a drink or pretending to talk on the phone, leaving their mask under their chin. And I can't remember the last time I went into this entrance. There you go, there's some interesting artwork. And you can connect to line 2 at this station, although that's not the best idea as it's a pretty far walk. If you are connecting to line 2, it's better just to head one more stop over to St George Station. There's a look at the entrance I just went through. But on this side of the street, it's just a typical looking subway entrance, nothing special. And I'll be walking along another fence, so maybe I'll jaywalk my way over to the other side. We're just a few blocks from Bloor Street West. There's the University of Toronto building, the Dr. Eric Jackman Institute of Child Study, and the Margaret and Wallace McCain Pavilion. Most of the St. George campus is just to the southeast of here, but they do have a number of buildings that sort of sprawl all over the general area. There's netting on these balconies, although it only seems to be a few of the units, so that's probably something the occupants agreed to pay for and install. Probably keeps the birds out, and perhaps more importantly, will keep your cat, if you have one, from leaping to its death, which they've been known to do on balconies. All right, so this is Lowther Avenue. This whole neighborhood just into the west here, or east rather, is quite gorgeous. There's a lot of nice tree-lined streets and really old style homes. Not the Victorian style homes you find in Cabbagetown, but there's a lot of older red brick and stone type houses. So it's interesting how different architectural styles have popped up in different areas of the city. And we're almost at 40 minutes, so I didn't plan on this walk taking so long, but so be it, I guess. And just in here on the left is a place I know quite well, the Madison Pub. It's extremely popular among the university-aged and 20-something crowd. There's also the Madison Boutique Hotel on the property. It's a number of old homes that have sort of been chained together. It's quite the maze. Once you learn your way around it quite efficiently, you'll feel like you've accomplished something. It also has a very large patio space towards the back of the property. I had a lot of good times there, and then walking south down Spadina into Chinatown to Roll Sand. And having some 24-hour dim sum. So this street here is Bloor Street West, and this is the southern end of Spadina Station. So if you're transferring from line 1 to line 2, you pretty much would have to have walked the distance I just did. Whereas if you transfer at St. George, the two lines are stacked one on top of the other, so your transfer will take you all of 15 seconds. I'll just come take a peek at the street level, and then I'll turn around and head back into the station. And starting at Spadina Station, heading south, is the Spadina streetcar. That's the 510 that'll run down through Chinatown to Queens Quay, and then it'll turn left and head east along to the harbor front, and then it'll turn north and terminate at Union Station. You know what, let's just keep heading east here, and I'll walk over to St. George Station. I feel like this walk has been very residential so far. And I still have plenty of time to tap back into the subway system. It costs $3.20 to tap onto the subway as an adult. And then you have a 2-hour window before you can tap back on without having to pay again. So this is just me being a bit cheap, trying to squeeze some extra value out of this trip. I think this was referred to as the Roach Hotel back in the day. It was sort of an experimental part of the University of Toronto, almost like a self-taught student residence and campus building. And that building just to the east of it is the Bata Shoe Museum. And well off into the distance, those jagged edges are the Royal Ontario Museum. And just past that is the Yorkville neighborhood, but I'll just be turning left just here at St George Street. I feel like I've been to the Bedford entrance of St George Station a number of times on this channel, but this entrance not so many times, so I'll head in through the St George.
It was just kind of like
entrance, and then I'll hop down to the train, and that'll be that. I mentioned earlier that Russell Hill was one of my favorite starting points to head south down into the city on. Well, if you continue on south, you'll eventually find yourself on Dupont, and then just about half a block to the west, you can jump onto St. George Street and take this south. It's a very pleasant bike ride. And this too will terminate at College Street, and then it'll turn into Beverly Street, and you can take that south down to where Beverly Street ends at Queen Street. All right, let me throw my mask on and get my Presto card ready. And I'll be heading to line 2 and taking that east to Bloor Yonge Station. But I'll probably end the video some point down on the platform. If students were fully back to school, I imagine this area would be a lot busier at this time. that's the northbound train for line 1. That'll carry on to Spadina Station, and then it'll carry on up to Dupont Station, which we walked by earlier. And where I started this walk was not too far from St. West Station. But I'll be taking line 2 eastbound. It says the next train is in 3 minutes. It's probably sooner than that on the other side. Oh, 2 minutes. I'll just take this chance to thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this trip down Spadina Road and past Casa Loma. There are links to my Patreon account in the description if you would like to support the channel, as well as my Instagram account and a PayPal donation link, and a link to my other channel, Johnny Stumbles. If you haven't subscribed to this or the other channel, please feel free to do so. It's an interesting place to brush your teeth. I think that's the train coming in on the other side. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.